Good morning. I'm Steve at Rogers Gardens. We're going to be talking about Phalaenopsis today. I've already done two videos. The first one concerned how to care for your Phalaenopsis. The second one was on repotting your Phalaenopsis orchid. And today we're going to talk about how to rebloom your Phalaenopsis. It's actually not all that difficult. As I mentioned before, Phalaenopsis are great houseplants. They're the one orchid that really adapts well to our home conditions. If you just follow a few guidelines, I'll just mention a couple things about growing them. Just sort of a recap, they like filtered light, so like an east window is fine, or a window that gets a bright north window is perfect growing conditions. They typically like our house temperatures, where we keep our room temperatures somewhere around 70, 72 degrees is ideal. They will take it a lot hotter. They'll take it a little bit cooler, but they generally don't like cold weather. Just average water. They don't like to dry out a lot. Just even moisture is what they prefer. Usually about once or twice a week in your home, depending on your humidity and temperature. But sometimes it's a little bit hard for them to rebloom. People can grow them on their windowsill, but there may be some times that they really need a little coaxing to rebloom, and it's all not that all difficult. The one factor that really is important to get them to rebloom is usually a drop in night temperature. And this normally happens in the fall, but the trouble is with our houses, we tend to keep those pretty uniform temperature. So sometimes their Phalaenopsis are reluctant to bloom if that's the case. One way, if you live in a warmer climate, or even in a colder climate, you can actually set your plant outdoors in the fall as the night temperatures are cooling down, as long as it doesn't get below about 55 degrees. But by exposing them to cooler night temperatures, and what I mean cool is usually between maybe 55, 62 degrees, it's usually enough drop in temperature to cause flower spikes to start forming. And you normally have to do this for maybe 2 to 4 weeks. I've done this when I lived back east in Pennsylvania. I would set them out in the fall. One time I left it out too long. We had a light frost unexpectedly, and I actually damaged the plant, which is really not what you want to do. But if you pay a little close attention, put them under protected location. If you have a back porch or a covered porch in your backyard, you can put them out there for 2 to 4 weeks for that drop in night temperature. Then you can bring them back in, and it's usually enough to get those flower spikes to start forming. Sometimes some people don't even have to do that. Sometimes the night temperatures just in the house get cooler. I know my house in the summertime is a lot warmer. I don't turn the air conditioner on, to keep it super cool. But if your house temperatures do go down naturally in your windowsill, you may not have to do anything. You still may get flower spikes. Okay, so let's talk about the ways that they rebloom. There are actually 3 ways your Phalaenopsis can rebloom. First of all, your bloom spike, this is a new bloom spike here, and it'll keep sending new flower buds here. Eventually this will stop. Usually they get between 7 and 9 flowers. Some of them have a few more, some of them have a few less. But sometimes what happens is that after these flower buds have opened, as in this one right here, you get continued flower buds forming at the end here. This will stop, but then eventually this may start growing again. This is not typical for these type of Phalaenopsis, but that sometimes can happen. Normally what happens is that after you've bloomed it for the first time, and let me just grab one of these over here, just to illustrate. Let's say that this is finished blooming. All these flowers have fallen off. And so what you would normally do is actually cut this flower spike down below where that first flower was present. So if you follow the stem down here, you'll see a little node here, sort of a little bract here. Usually cut it right above there. Sometimes what will happen is that it'll sit there for a year or so until the following fall. They typically start reblooming in the fall. There are exceptions. As with plants, there's always exceptions to the rules. So it's not a hard and fast rule, but this one was done last year. This was last year's bloom spike, and if you can see here that I actually cut the top of this spike off. And so what happened this fall, it actually branched here. So this is the same flower spike from last year, and this is just a secondary bloom. This always doesn't happen, but sometimes this whole spike will start turning yellow, you'll notice, and then at that point you can just cut it right down to the base. This is one last year, and it somehow got missed. I normally would cut, this is where the old flowers were. It stayed green, so normally I would cut this down, but I didn't for some reason, but it makes a good point here I can illustrate. This is actually starting, right now, this is starting to turn yellow, so it's not going to produce any more at the end of the spike here, but I don't know if you can see this, if you look closely, you'll see this is starting to branch at the base here. So what I'm going to do is actually going to cut this. This is the old spike. Won't do anything more. But what happens is that this one is starting to branch here, and pretty soon, within about maybe a month and a half, 2 months, this will look like this. There'll be flowers on here. So that's the second way that your Phalaenopsis can rebloom. A third way is to get, and this is probably the best way to do it, is to get a whole new spike coming from the base. And in this plant, aside from the old spike reblooming, it also has a new one coming from the base here. All the flower spikes always come from the base between the leaves. So this is the new one. So this is actually going to have 2 spikes in bloom at the same time. This is the new one, and then this one will also produce flowers, so you essentially get double your money. Some people actually just cut this flower spike off. Usually these reblooming spikes, the flowers aren't quite as good quality as a new spike. They're not quite as vigorous. So some people will actually just cut these off at the base. It's up to you. There's really no right or wrong way to do it. I tend to leave them on and have them rebloom as long as my plant is healthy and growing well. And this one is, because this new spike is really strong and vigorous. So this will produce a nice spray of flowers, along with some secondary ones, which will be a little smaller. And again, this one is the same way. I just want to point out, I had some slugs that got into the greenhouse, so that's what this damage on these leaves. Before I noticed it, they'd done a little damage to the leaves, but it's not going to hurt the plant itself. But this one already, you can see that it already is producing secondary flowers, and this new flower spike here, this is a new one this year, it's a lot more vigorous. We'll get a lot more flowers on here. It's also branching right here, which some of them do, so this will really put on quite a show by the time it finishes blooming. That's the nice thing about the Phalaenopsis. You can get blooms for quite a long period of time. They also, this one is farther advanced, and by the time these flowers open, this one, the secondary ones, and there's another secondary branch on the side here just starting, but this will continue the flowering period for quite a long time. So these can be in bloom I've had them in bloom for 5-6 months at a time. Another reason why Phalaenopsis are great orchids for the house. You really get a lot of bang for your bucks. So that's really about it, about getting your Phalaenopsis to bloom. One thing I do want to mention, it's important to keep these fertilized. There are specialized orchid fertilizers. I'm not even going to mention the brand. There's so many different orchid fertilizers out on the market now. I've even used ones, just a general houseplant fertilizer, which seems to do the trick. They're not heavy feeders, so you just want to make sure that you usually do about half the strength, what the recommended dose is on the package of your fertilizer. I usually cut that down to about a half. Maybe every 3rd or 4th watering, I give it a shot of fertilizer just to keep this plant growing. A nice, big, healthy plant is going to produce a lot bigger flowers when it reblooms, a lot more of them, and it'll just look a lot better.